Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to master a concept that I like to call the grammar of imagination. We are breaking down the second conditional.
Let's jump right into this what-if journey with a question. What would I do if I had $1 million? Right? It's the ultimate universal hypothetical. I'm pretty sure every single one of us has asked ourselves this exact question at some point. Maybe you were buying a lottery ticket or, just zoning out during a really long meeting. When you ask this, you aren't just daydreaming. Grammatically speaking, you're stepping right into the territory of the second conditional. It's the framework we use to explore our desires, our fears, and those alternate paths that diverge from our current reality. Or think about this one. If I had more free time, I'd travel more. Again, super relatable daydream for most of us, right? Think about how often phrases like this just pop into your head. Like, if I didn't have to cook tonight, I'd order pizza. Or if it weren't raining, I'd go for a run. These aren't just stiff, rigid textbook exercises reserved for language classes. They're dynamic, vital tools we use constantly in our everyday lives to imagine better, different, or even totally impossible situations. So what exactly is this tool we're using to build all these daydreams? Well, the second conditional is a grammatical structure used to talk about imaginary or unlikely situations in the present or the future. Basically, it's our absolute best tool for talking about things that just aren't true right now, but that we're actively imagining could be. It gives us a structural framework to talk about those alternate realities without confusing people into thinking we're stating concrete facts. It's like a safe sandbox for our ideas to play in.
Okay, let's dive into this, because it really all comes down to a beautifully simple blueprint. Here's your master key. If plus the past simple, followed by a comma, and then would plus the base verb. That is the fundamental architecture for building literally any imaginary scenario you can possibly think of. You've got the condition, the if clause, which builds the imaginary world, and then you have the result, the would clause, that tells us what happens inside that imaginary world. It's incredibly straightforward once you break it down into these two reliable parts.
Let's run through some rapid-fire examples to really see this blueprint in action. Notice the strict structural pattern across totally different subjects here. First up, if I had enough money, I would get my own apartment. That's a very personal, practical goal. Or, if I weren't so busy, I would travel more often. We can apply it to third parties just as easily. Like, if Kelly weren't so busy, she would exercise more. And the really cool part, it scales all the way up to massive global ambitions. If everyone drove electric cars, we would help the environment. And finally, if we all worked together, we would achieve great things. Do you see that consistent pattern holding it all together? If plus the past simple, then would plus the base verb. Works every single time.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is a mind-bending little nuance we've got to address. Even though we are explicitly talking about situations in the present or the future, we use the past simple tense right after the word if. Kind of counterintuitive at first glance, right? Why use a past tense for a future daydream? Well, actually, don't think of the past tense here as time travel. Think of it as reality travel. It creates this psychological distance between reality and your imagination. The past tense here is essentially a grammatical flag waving to your listener saying, hey, we're stepping away from the facts of right now and taking a step back into a parallel universe. It's just a brilliant quirk of language.
Let's look at a super specific quirk when it comes to the verb to be. Traditionally, you've probably heard the phrase, if I were. This is the strictly formal rule, technically known as the subjunctive mood. The rule dictates that we use were with all pronouns in the second conditional. So if I were, if he were, if she were. But as we know, language is a living, breathing thing. In everyday conversation, tons of native speakers casually swap that out and say, if I was. And honestly, both are going to be understood perfectly in the real world. But, and this is key, knowing that were is the technically correct formal version gives you a massive advantage. Got a job interview? Writing a formal email? Definitely use were. Just grabbing coffee with friends? Was is perfectly fine.
Okay, we need to clear up a really common trap that catches a lot of people. It is incredibly tempting to say, if I will have more money, I would travel. We want to use will because logically our brains are thinking about a future event. We think, well, I don't have the money now, so I will have it later. But we got to remember our rule. Remember that psychological distance we literally just talked about? The correct phrasing is, if I had more money, I would travel. We have to train ourselves to resist that urge to use will and confidently stick to our trusty past simple phrasing right after the if. That past tense is the magic key.
So, the crucial point is this. I want this specific formula permanently etched into your memory. Let's lock it in one last time. If plus the past simple plus would plus the base verb. Whenever you want to express a hypothetical, an unlikely present circumstance, or a purely imagined future, this is the exact reliable tool you need to pull from your mental grammar toolbox. Whether you're dreaming of a new house, a new job, or a completely different world, this formula is your foundation. It's never going to let you down.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking challenge. It's time to actively practice what we just learned together. What would you do if you had one extra day every single week? Seriously, imagine an 8-day week with a brand new, completely free 24 hours just for you. Take a second and really think about your answer to that. Formulate the sentence in your head right now and make absolutely sure you use that second conditional structure we just mastered. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the grammar of imagination. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep exploring all of your what-ifs.